It's not every day that a movie comes along and I decide to review it because I hate it. Now, I reviewed Avenging, the story of Matt Hunter killing those evil pentangle racist bastards because I love that movie, and I love Matt Hunter. But Halloween 2018, I hate it as much as Glenn Quagmire, and he slept with my wife Loretta. Well, I don't want to delay it. Let's get on to this garbage, because here's my 2018 Halloween review. From Stool Bend, Virginia, I'm Cleveland Brown.
My name is Cleveland Brown, and I am proud to be right back in my hometown.
The opening sequences find us at Smith's Grove Hospital. Yes, we've been there before, where we're introduced to two characters who become the focus early on, as their investigative journalism has them covering Michael Myers. Meet Aaron Corey and Dana Haynes, not to be confused with the underwear. They are introduced to Dr. Sartan, you might as well just call him Dr. fucking Satan, who is basically a replacement Dr. Loomis, whatever that cracker's name is from a dollar store, but for continuity purposes only, replacement Dr. Loomis. He never really was connected as a character with me through the whole film. I believe this is the fault of the writing more so than the acting in this case. Myers is about to be transferred to another facility. Why do they keep doing this? So our intrepid reporters are bound and determined to get a response out of Myers by visiting him as he's chained and shackled in the yard, amidst other patients and security. The doctor explains visitation protocol and introduces them. Corey begins to talk to Myers, questioning him about the events of the evening of October 31st, 1978, even though going so far as to bring the mask he wore the night of the murders. Myers is slightly responsive, but at this moment all the other patients start verbally acting out. Even the canine officer's doggy reacts by barking wildly, kind of like they do when I walk by if I'm carrying my weed. The whole scene leads to the opening credits and was a bit overdramatic if you ask me. Corey and Haynes are in their car recording some verbal notes on their way to Laurie Strode's residence, which is, ironically or unironically, in the middle of fucking nowhere, where they encounter a gate and security system. They also have to bribe Laurie with $3,000 to get her to let them in. Her home is completely fortified with spotlights and surveillance cameras, and a lot of locks on the door. The number of locks that would cause someone to die in a fire in real life. Remember that later. Haynes and Corey sit down with Laurie. I did not mean for that to rhyme. I'm a poet and didn't know it. And try to get her to discuss Myers by asking about the boogeyman, asking Laurie if she really believes in the boogeyman. And at this point, we basically hear the first of Laurie not being Myers' sister in this timeline. They discuss Laurie's troubled past and Myers' transfer the next day. They dive right into Laurie losing custody of her daughter when she was 12. Corey tells Strode they went to see Myers and try to get her to go visit him in hopes of getting him to talk. Like that hasn't been tried before. And then she takes their money and makes them leave because Laurie Strode is fucking gangster. In this next scene, we meet Laurie's daughter, Curran, son-in-law, Ray, and granddaughter, Allison. Ray is an absolute ineffectual, weak beta male. Curran is a controlling yet apparently oblivious woman, it's all a work, who doesn't want anything to do with her mother Laurie, and wants her daughter to stay away from her. This is a fucking great family dichotomy the Strodes have going on here. Now it's time to meet Vicky and Dave, Allison's dumbass friends, who she tells her troubles to about her mother and grandmother. And the Michael Myers murders, of course, because what else would you tell your friends? And it is again emphasized that Strode is not Myers' sister. That was an urban legend in this universe. The rest of the scene is Dave being stoned and rambling, and blowing up a pumpkin with an M80. Kinda sounds like me. Next, we're introduced to Allison's stereotypical douchebag boyfriend who pretends to be sweet, and his idiotic, weak, big foreheaded, ugly best friend Oscar, who reminds me of my neighbor Lester, but who obviously has a thing for Allison, much like Lester does with my wife Donna. Allison is seen in class, reminiscing of Strode in Halloween 78, looking out the window and sees Strode standing there on the sidewalk as if she knew exactly what room she'd be in at the exact moment, Laura gives Allison about $3,000 from the Corey and Haynes people and tells her to leave now. They talk about Strode's strained relationship with her daughter and losing her family. Next, we have a shooting montage at Strode's range with various weapons, reestablishing her complete badassery. You go, girl. Rejoin our intrepid podcasters, Haynes and Corey, listen to the audio of Loomis's tapes discussing Myers' need to be put to death. This audio is set over the reporters looking at evidence. Myers being prepped for transfer with other patients, like that's a good fucking idea. Dr. Sartain insists he accompany the transfer bus. Laura is parked outside where the bus is leaving the hospital, holding a handgun. That seems safe, Laurie. Then we meet up with Karen, Ray, Allison, and Cameron, discussing their Halloween costumes as Bonnie and Clyde, but Cameron is dressing like Bonnie, furthering the weak male theme that runs across this movie. Laura shows up at dinner, and the pleasantries don't last long as she drinks most of Ray's wine, and I know how I get when Donna drinks my wine. I almost hit her with a bottle once. Karen admonishes her, and then Strode starts to cry and tells everyone that she watched the transfer and wanted to kill Myers. Curran tries to talk to her, and the evening is ruined. Cake, anyone? Allison goes to catch up with Meemaw and give her a big old everything's gonna be all right, despite the insane serial killer that's going to murder everyone that you fucking know, you crazy white bitch. Karen tells Allison what she had to do as a kid per Strode's instructions on how to survive, shooting at 8, fighting, and how social services took her away at 12, and she had spent her whole life fighting the paranoia. Of course, good old dumb Ray says, "Oh, she'll be all right." Thanks, Ray. I hope your sage wisdom finds you well when you're folded in half like a piece of paper, dumbass. Then we meet a father and son on their way home from a hunting trip, where the son is telling his father he prefers dance classes to hunting, because dance is where his heart is at. And then the predictable plot point, "Dad, look out!" as they happen across the scene of the hospital bus, which of course has inexplicably crashed off camera. At least in Halloween 4, we saw him murder the ambulance crew, and then he escaped. Not this shit show, no sir. So of course dear old Dad gets out of the truck to look around and leaves his kid in the truck as Dad goes to check on the free-roaming mental patients. Junior calls 911 and then gets out to see where Pop is to stumble across a seemingly dead body. Mind you, the kid is probably 12 or 13, but has a rifle. It's one of the guards who tells him to run. The kid starts screaming, of course he does, gets into the bus and accidentally shoots Dr. Satarian. Then runs back to his truck only to have his neck snapped by Myers, a la Annie Brackett in 78. Boy, this kid should have stayed in dance class. And I think it's notable to say his dad looked like he was at least in his 60s with a 12-year-old boy. Mama must be a youngster. Old pinball wizard Deputy Hawkins, who was there in 1978 when Myers struck all those years ago. He, of course, responds to the bus crash and roadside murders. He finds Dr. Satarian bleeding out on the floor of the bus, where he's informed of the Myers escape. Next, we're taken to a cemetery, where the caretaker is telling Corey and Haynes about the celebrities in the cemetery where her cousin works. Awkward! But this is Haddonfield, and this is our only claim to fame, Judith Myers' grave. Haynes and Corey sit at the grave, recount the events of the night of the murder in front of the caretaker, and Myers, who is just about 40 fucking feet away in all his white hospital scrubs in broad daylight. But wait, there's more. The caretaker fixes in on Myers watching them and literally says nothing about a creepy dude wrapped up in a hospital gown watching them as they sit by a grave. Now we're in the hospital with Dr. Satarian, and we meet the sheriff, Sheriff Barker, who goes over the fact that they have recovered all the missing mental patients. But Hawkins says that Michael Myers is missing. Dun dun dun. The sheriff laughs it off and basically, now we're at the gas station. We skipped over a bunch of shit. I didn't skip it, the movie did, because it's fucking retarded. This is right from Halloween 4, but done in a completely horrible recreation. Myers is about to kill off 4 or 5 people in broad daylight in a town, not like the dusty roadside truck stop in Halloween 4, which has been replaced in canon by this shit. Corey and Haynes are gassing up. Myers pulls in the Bronco he took from the dead kid's dad. How the fuck does he even know how to drive? He's been locked up since he was a child. And walks right into the repair shop. killing one of the mechanics as we hear it in the background, as this old woman's face just shows a foreboding expression as she looks at Corey. Nice. Myers has just got his trademark romper from this dead mechanic. Now, there were other people at the gas station while this was happening, and the station is not in an isolated area. So why all the ensuing murders happen and not one person hears or sees anything? Fuck you, movie. Oh yeah, and Myers' mask is in plain sight in the back of Corey and Haynes' car. You can see Myers beating the poor mechanic to death from the cash register. But my plot devices. Haynes goes to use the disgusting bathrooms, so now we know that we're about to get the scene from the trailer. Myers enters the bathroom slowly and does the stall-by-stall trope. Haynes is terrified, yada yada yada, crawls under the stalls to escape. Corey sees the cashier and the mechanics beat to death, so he runs to the Louvre to help Haynes. Meanwhile, she apparently isn't fond of Myers' gift of somebody's bloody teeth, and rejects his advances. Hashtag me too. Corey tries to fight Myers and gets predictably dispatched as Haynes sits in a stall crying until Myers snaps her neck, while Corey has time to reflect on his weaknesses and being an ineffectual beta male podcast. What happens next is sheer cinematic gold. Myers has just loudly killed 4 people at a repair shop gas station in the middle of town nonetheless, and he proceeds to walk to Corey and Haynes' car, put his mask on in broad daylight, while the local law enforcement is already aware of his escape. But my plot, right? We see Laura's watching the news about the bus crash and proceeds to lock her house down and retreat to her secret lair underneath the kitchen that has tile floors, but later on, because my plot, you can see right through the goddamn floorboards. Laura is gearing up and she is getting ready to go out in a ridiculous Mini Cooper. Who drives those things? How pretentious can you fucking be? She notices the back door open, that's what she said, and the house is quiet. Calls out for Ray and Allison. Ray walks in from the backyard, and Laura pops out with a handgun and admonishes Curran, telling her she will pay the price for her lack of vision. Ray says he can take care of his family. He knows jujitsu. Karen and Ray kick her out. What a fucking joke. This guy's a bitch. He doesn't know a Jew, let alone jujitsu. Hawkins and other officers find the gas station carnage. And just like that, we see how fucking stupid this movie is. The sheriff shows Hawkins the hospital gown that Myers left there and says they called Smith's Grove. And it confirmed that the robe belonged to Myers. And then Hawkins serves up his member berries and says, I was there, man. I was there. Next thing we see is trick-or-treaters. A pair bump into Myers, who walks right into an open garage, grabs a hammer, walks into the owner's house, and beats her to death with it. And takes a kitchen knife. Myers doesn't like salami on rye. He wants the opposite. Tuna on whole wheat. He walks directly past a crying baby and out the door, knife in hand. Myers then decides to trick-or-treat at a random house by walking in and stabbing the woman to death as she closes her fucking blinds. Why, again? Then we see Cameron and Allison in gender-swap Bonnie and Clyde costumes getting their pictures taken by Oscar, who's probably going to fap to them later because he's an incel. Dance montage set to I Don't Care, which describes my enthusiasm level whilst watching this fucking trash a second time so I can review it. Cameron wanders off while Allison takes a call from Vicky, who is babysitting the smartest person in this entire fucking movie, Julian. They make small talk on the phone. Julian listens in, has a funny exchange with Vicky. While Allison and Vicky are talking, Meemaw Laurie calls, and Allison swipes right. Continuing her conversation with Vicky, Vicky tucks Julian in and they have a nice moment. Back at the dance, Cameron is getting drunk with Oscar, and Allison catches them kissing some random girl we haven't seen before. If this was a nod to be part 5, it wasn't set up well at all. So Cameron takes off in his high heels and makes excuses for his lip lock with Kim. Then he throws Allison's phone in some pudding, because it was her fault he kissed Kim, and she leaves. Strode is listening to a police scanner, driving around, searching for Myers, because she's a psychopath. Meanwhile, Vicky performing a task we like to call foreshadowing, as she sets a large kitchen knife down in the dish drainer that we'll see again shortly. As she takes out the garbage, her boyfriend Dave shows up, and he shows her his new ink. Oh, good job, buddy. Who paid for that? They do the teenager thing on the couch. Plot device incoming. Myers is already in the house. Is it Julian, the best character in this damn movie, tells Vicky and Dave that the boogeyman is in the house. And Vicky goes upstairs with Julian, and we get the fake-out scare before the actual murder. Vicky checks the room and says it's safe after playing a little gag on Julian. Dave goes outside to get high, which coincidentally I did several times during writing this and reviewing this piece of crap. And then starts revving up Julian's dad's motorcycle, which tips over on the side and he breaks it because he's a dumbass. Vicky tucks Julian in, and then he asks her to shut the closet door, and that's where the wheels come off. Myers slashes his way out of the closet as Julian runs out of the house, past Dave, as Vicky is left to her demise. Then Dave isn't far behind as he grabs the kitchen knife, and well, we're all left to assume that he gets killed off camera. We see Hawkins respond to a domestic call at the house, and Strode hears it on her scanner because she's a busybody and she's listening too. And she's en route to the residence as well. Now, this is where Dave and Vicky died, with Hawkins arriving first on the scene. He enters the house and begins to investigate, and then Laurie arrives outside, gun drawn, before any other officers can get there, mind you. We see Hawkins enter Julian's room, where we're treated to another Halloween trope of who's under the fucking sheet. Spoiler alert, it's Vicky. She's been staged, seated upright with eye holes cut out of the sheet. Michael spares no attention to detail, apparently. Laurie is still outside and sees him in a reflection through the window and shoots and misses, of course, and then he walks right past Julian's room on his way down the stairs. Hawkins shoots and misses, of course, and Myers just disappears into the night. But not before Hawkins sees Dave's bitchin' 10/31/18 tattoo, and Laura shoots Myers in the shoulder just before he walks away again. Hawkins finds Strode, and she immediately accidentally hits him in the face. The scene is being processed, and the sheriff arrives with not Dr. Loomis, generic Dr. Loomis. Dollar store Dr. Loomis, who fills Hawkins and the sheriff in on what Myers will do. Strode implores them to do something, which the police in these movies are inevitably unable to do because they're all morons. Not Dr. Loomis and Strode meet. She calls him New Loomis. Strode says she's been praying for his escape so she can kill him. Not Loomis is now riding with Hawkins and trying to aid in the apprehension of Myers. I wonder why. Allison are discussing Cameron's faux pas at the dance, blah, blah. This dude's wanted. Oscar and Allison are discussing Cameron's faux pas at the dance, blah, blah. This dude wants to dry hump Allison in the worst way. It's pathetic. They discuss Cameron and his desire to remain the good guy in everyone else's eyes, blah, blah, blah. Allison says she's tired of everyone letting her down. And here comes Oscar's brilliant idea to take a shortcut. Cut back to Hawkins and not Dr. Loomis discussing Laurie and her mental state. Not Loomis says her response to the tragedy, and Myers' response is fascinating to him. And he admits that he's basically obsessed with Myers. Go figure. Hawkins gives him a look like he's fucking crazy and says they need to find him. Satarian says, Dr. Loomis says, not Dr. God damn it, I'm so disgusted with this, I can't even talk right anymore. Not Loomis says he mustn't be harmed because he's state property. Police and Strode arrive at the Kern's house and warn them to take them away to her house. Laura tells Kern her lack of knowledge of her daughter's whereabouts is a problem. Ray has no lines because he is simple fodder to be killed off when it's most convenient to the plot because he's a disposable white male. In this movie, in this series, are now about women. And rejoin our white knight Oscar and Allison on their supposed shortcut. Then they jump a fence, but they're stopped by ice. Oscar tries to kiss Allison, and she angrily rejects the elephant man's advances. She leaves him in the yard whining about nonsensical bullshit because he's a beta cuck. Enter Michael Myers to finally kill off this idiot. Oscar thinks Myers is the homeowner and starts rambling to him, leading up to the moment that this doughboy is offed. Much to my delight, because that's one less beta male running amok in this movie. The only cool thing about the scene is the use of the motion sensor lights, and Myers using the moments of darkness to make his approach while Dummy tries in vain to escape with his meaningless plot device-driven life. Unsuccessfully, thank God. Allison hears him screaming as Myers stabs him while he climbs the fence. Allison arrives to see him impaled, and then sees Myers and runs away screaming down the street, much like Laurie in Halloween 1978. Meanwhile, at Laurie's house, Karanos argues with the police that they aren't finding Allison quick enough. Ray stands by like a good little bitch, and then Laurie insists that Karen shut up, basically. Hawkins and the doctor arrive where Allison is, pick her up, and order everyone inside their houses. Back at Laurie's house, Doofus Ray wanders around, and Karanos is seemingly comfortable in the house, even though she apparently has nothing but bad memories of it, and she opens up a secret door to the cellar as Laurie and Ray make their descent. It's a fully stocked fallout shelter with food and an armory. The weapon scene is also an emasculatory tool, as Ray is given the smallest weapon, a snub-nosed .38 revolver, and Karanos and Laurie both use long rifles and shotguns. Think they're making a dick joke about Ray. Michael is wandering aimlessly along the road. Hawkins takes a radio call on Myers' location and runs him over with his truck. I hope that's covered by your insurance. This is where the movie goes completely off the fucking rails, if it hasn't already, as Dr. Satan admonishes Hawkins for killing Myers. He's kneeling and checking for vitals. Hawkins is standing behind him, gun drawn, telling him to get away from Myers, and poor Allison is locked in the back of the patrol car conveniently. Hawkins says, "I'm still gonna blow this motherfucker's brains out." And the doctor says, "Leave him alone." And you see where this is going. Hawkins tells Dr. No to move away from the suspect. Dr. Zhivago draws out his pen, which contains a scalpel conveniently, and as Hawkins approaches, the good doctor stabs him through the neck with it. As he falls, Hawkins' gun goes off but hits nothing. Dr. Shithead stabs him a few more times to be thorough about his work. As Hawkins lays, bleeding out and twitching, Dr. Weirdo walks around to Myers and starts touching him like he's a kid at Neverland and Dr. No is Michael Jackson. And Allison sees Dr. Doom wearing Myers' mask as he proceeds to drag him and throw him in the back seat with Allison. Then, Dr. Not Loomis decides to tell Allison that his plan is to reunite Myers and Strode, just like on Dr. Phil. As they drive away, Dr. Not Loomis adds insult to injury as he runs over Hawkins' corpse. That's a dick move. Here, we're better introduced to the lovable, idiotic fodder, better known as a pair of Haddonfield sheriff's deputies, as they sit at the end of Laura's driveway and discuss the culinary delight that is a banh mi sandwich. An extended version of this scene can be found in the bonus features under deleted scenes. It added nothing to the story at all, especially since these two were introduced simply as fodder, much like the pair of Haddonfield sheriff's officers in Part 5 who were killed at the Tower Farm party whilst playing cards in their cruiser. Poor bastards. On the way to Laura's house, not Dr. Loomis tells Allison that he wants to hear Michael speak, see his reaction to Laurie, and Allison tells him that she heard him speak. Enter the old, "I'll tell you what you want to know if you let me go" trope. So not Dr. Loomis stops the car, and oh no, Michael is awake and wearing his mask. So not Dr. Loomis asks her if the word was Judith, which is Michael's sissy. While this is going on, the two deputies guarding Laura's driveway see Not Loomis do a power slide in Hawkins' patrol SUV and decide to investigate. Myers smashes Not Loomis against the wheel from the back seat, removes him from the truck, and curb stomps his skull. During this, Allison is able to escape and tries to make her way to Laura's house. The Keystone cops arrive with no radio response from Hawkins. They decide to see and investigate and find Not Loomis's body. Radio it into dispatch, and then we see Michael standing about 20 feet from them, and they're both about to be DED'd. Cut back to the interior of Laura's house, and she's turning lights off because these fictional light bills are sky high. Laura yells at Karanos to turn off the lights and light a candle. Oh wait, that was Teddy Pendergrass. And apologize for not protecting her or some shit. They show Allison running through the woods and cut directly to the Duncan Yo-Yo Master, who happens to see a patrol car come right into the scene on surveillance monitors. Of course, 38 in hand, he decides to investigate. Upon opening the cruiser door, he finds two dead officers and is immediately accosted and killed by Myers via strangulation. He went out like a bitch. Laura makes her way downstairs and sees Myers as he stares back at her. She orders Karanos to join the people under the stairs. Then we're treated to Strode getting choked by Myers, who apparently doesn't know how to ring a fucking doorbell. Laurie Strode is a strong woman who don't need no man, and shoots his hand clean off. Laurie and Carranos await Myers as he opened up the front door to gain entry to the house. Then, after taking a shot at him through the floor, remember earlier when I said this would come into play because it was tiled, but underneath you could see through the floorboards? Yeah, this is that time. Laurie goes upstairs to hunt for the boogeyman, leaving Carranos in the cellar. Oh, let's see here. The next scene is Laurie clearing the house, room by room. She has a lockdown mechanism for each room and starts to close each one after the room is cleared. She should have just done that from the start, then pinpointed Myers' location in the house, but that would have made sense, and you can't advance a plot in a movie this dumb by applying common sense logic. So, she finds Ray in a closet. Seems about right. Except he's not coming out. Dead and folded in half. Didn't I say that earlier? After a scuffle with Myers, sees Strode thrown over the balcony. Myers goes searching through the house because he hears Allison enter and start yelling for Strode or Carranos. Carranos opens the trap door to the cellar, and Allison enters as they close the entrance before Myers can see where they went. And they sit quietly as possible in the cellar while he stealthily searches downstairs. All of a sudden, he's drawn to the counter that acts as the cover to the cellar. He proceeds to rip it off the hinges, because my plot. So as Myers is doing this, Carranos grabs her childhood rifle from the rack, the one with a name on it, and frantically calls out for Strode. Myers walks in front of the entrance, and Carranos shoots him in the face with all the ferocity of her asking to talk to a manager at the local Steak and Shake after they put ketchup on a meal. And he falls into the cellar conveniently, because that's how trajectory works. Strode urges Allison and Carranos to get out. Allison exits, but Carranos gets grabbed by Myers until Allison grabs a knife and stabs him until he lets go of her cankle. They hit a lever and spikes close off the entrance to the cellar, and Myers is trapped. At this point, Strode lights the pilot that runs through various points around the house, including the cellar. Yeah, that seems safe. Flames are everywhere, and Myers is engulfed in them, and our trio of heroines makes their exit before the house explodes. Funny how all the houses just explode. This one, it's got gas lines running everywhere, though, I guess. Goddamn white people. They then notice a passing truck and flag the driver down for a ride. The last scene of the film sees Allison holding the knife she used to stab Myers. Can you say sequel? Oh boy, I can barely suspend my disbelief. This movie was not good. It was not inventive, nor does it require a sequel or sequels, which have been planned. Nothing against John Carpenter, but I'm not much of a Blumhouse fan, and this film definitely falls into that category. I won't go so far as to say that the movie is completely woke, but the male characters are bumbling idiots throughout the film, much like my neighbors Lester and Holt. As the Halloween films in the mythos go, this falls somewhere in between the garbage tier films in the latter part of the original timeline, after Halloween 4, of course, which I love, and the gag, garbage, Halloween Rob Zombie iterations. Not Dr. Loomis, Dr. Satarian was a pathetic attempt at replacing Loomis in the series, and the character added nothing to the film, even the twist was stupid. Obviously, he was a plot device used to get Myers back at Strode, but they could have been more inventive with their bold new vision and not relied on a series trope. Jamie Lee Curtis gave a solid performance as usual, and her role as the Scream Queen is still intact. Judy Greer gave her usual supporting actress efforts, nothing more, nothing less, as I believe that is all she has in her repertoire, although she is quite attractive. Unfortunately, they're planning on further bastardizing this beloved IP with a pair of sequels. Shocker, of course, in a trilogy. Halloween Kills is slated for release. Well, it was slated for release in October of this year, and Halloween Ends was slated for a 2021 release, both in October, of course. The films are a collaboration between Blumhouse, which I'll just call Dumbhouse, Universal Pictures, Trancas International Films, and Miramax. Overall, I give this movie about a 4 out of 10, and I think that's being generous. It wasn't particularly entertaining or captivating. I honestly enjoyed Halloween 5 far better, even Part 6, just because it had Paul Rudd, who I find to be delightful. So did my wife Loretta, until Glenn Quagmire slept with her. Anyway, that is my final thoughts on Halloween 2018. I hope you enjoyed my review of Halloween 2018. Here's where you can find the place to be reviews across social media. You already know, don't you though? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, past podcasts on Anchor, iTunes, and Spotify. That's right. And click subscribe to join the Fandom Menace. Hail the Fandom Menace.
I can't do this anymore. Thanks, guys, for listening and for joining in. I really appreciate it. It's been this has been a lot of work, but a lot of fun. And remember, if I don't see you, have a great day, a pleasant tomorrow, and stay tuned because there's another video, and that's coming up next, right here on The Place to Be Reviews.